Hey there, and welcome to the ADK channel. I'm, of course, Dave, and with me today is, of course, Andy and Kirk. And we have a JB from the wonderful band Sentient. Welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much for having
You're more than welcome. We obviously caught you guys on, I was about to say last Sunday, but it was actually the Sunday before at your Metal to the Masses Heat 1, which you guys played an absolute blinder. I think we were all three of us were thoroughly impressed by the performance, and for me, it was definitely the band of the evening. I don't know about the other two. Yeah. I know you guys are Denali fans, but they weren't competing. But talk about competing bands here, guys.
Yeah, Sentient. I think you were really hungry that night, weren't you? Really up for it. Definitely, I thought you were the best band there as well in the first heat.
Yeah, very, very strong.
I mean, yeah, first band on first heat, got to bring the thunder. So.
Yes. Definitely, and you certainly did it. We've got a few questions for you. We've got a few standard ones that we always like to go through, and they are just as important now. We did, obviously, a year ago, have a little chat at the bottom of the stairs of Club 85. And these are part of those questions from them, but we're going to cover them again.
I remember my answers from last time. Yeah.
So,
try and give you something fresh.
Try and come up with something, yeah. Sentient, the band name. So we need to cover that one off. So for anyone that doesn't know, the band name, where does it come from? What does it mean?
Yeah, it's a good question. I suppose when we first started out, there was a few kind of names that were floating around. So we wanted something kind of short, sharp, something that maybe just rolled off the tongue quite nicely. I don't think we looked into it in much depth, to be honest. It was just a cool word that kind of seemed to float about. I mean, a few people have asked what it means. Obviously, you can Google it, but it's basically the ability to perceive or feel emotion, I think, something like that.
Right.
So, you know, hopefully that's what we make people feel when they listen to us. Ugh, what a cringe answer.
Yeah. Fair enough.
It's just a cool name, I think, yeah.
It's a cool name. It works. How long has the band been together? So can you give us a bit of a breakdown of the history of the band? Because obviously you've had a lineup change as well.
Lineup changes, yeah.
So do you want to take us through that journey of the band, formation of the band, and I guess to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. So probably over 5 years ago now. I think was just coming out of the back of a band, trying to get things started. Didn't really go too well, so I jumped online to joinmyband.com. Absolute classic. It's like the Tinder for musicians.
Yeah.
And I basically saw a post on there saying wanting to do the kind of stuff that we're doing now, and it was Rick, our drummer. I reached out to him saying, "Yeah, it sounds really good. So, like, let's get together and do a jam." And then I'm quite notoriously bad for replying to messages. So I think in the lead up to our first jam, I didn't actually message Rick. He just told me the time and the date and then didn't message him for about a week. And then I just turned up in the practice room with him and Glenn there. And I think I just got a response of, "Oh, so you are actually coming then?" And it was like, "Okay, yeah, here I am." So yeah, like I said, Glenn was our original guitarist. And then we got one of our mates in BAM to play bass. After like a year or so, I just don't think those guys were feeling it anymore, and no fair play to them. They just moved on to other stuff. So recruited a couple of other guys. I think we've got Tom in on guitar, who was previously in a band, The Last Skylit Night, who absolutely rad. And then we got Lewis White in on bass as well, because he was looking to do a bit more of a heavier project. And then unfortunately Lewis, I think, moved on as well. And then that's when we found Trig to come in, hot off the heels with his tenure with Broken Tooth. So I think we left those guys and then came joined up. So yeah, that's the lineup as it stands at the moment. So it's been a long road, but I think we finally found what we're after. So
it's a good lineup. It really showed you guys were really clicking and gelling on stage. And sometimes you can watch a band and you don't feel that chemistry, but you could really feel a great chemistry when you guys were performing 2 Sundays ago.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think it's just the people that you're on stage with. Something just clicks, and yeah, it all just falls into place, really.
Great. Andy, you had a couple of questions, didn't you?
I do. Hiya, Joe. You're right.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
I'm good. This is the one that you may or may not be able to answer, but I was going to ask about the guitar tone of the band. When I first heard you, which would have been probably one of the Metal to Masses heats, going back a few years, you know, I came away and thought, I've never heard a guitar sound like that. Was that sort of a conscious decision by the guy you mentioned earlier called Glenn? You know, or was you trying to find the sound of a particular band? And it's really great that Thomas has carried that forward, you know, now he's joined the band.
I'm not sure if it was something. Yeah, I'm not sure if it was something specific that we were necessarily after. Just something, I guess, kind of really heavy hitting and kind of crunchy, but also that's, you know, quite clean and can cut through. If you give me 2 seconds, I can tell you what Tom uses as well. I should know this off the top of my head, but I did put it in a chat recently. What does Tom use? So Tom uses a Mezza head into a cab simulator. And I think the dude's just an absolute beast when it comes to finding guitar tones. Especially him and Rick did a lot of work on the upcoming EP, like sitting through different settings and really trying to hone a decent kind of guitar tone for that. And then it just really translates well live as well.
Nice, yeah, absolutely. Again, you preempted this question as well, because I was going to ask, and you know, about your previous band experience, because in my opinion, you are the best, or certainly one of the best front people in the local scene. The way you sort of command the stage, interact with the audience, the between song banter. Have you honed those skills in your time at Sentient, or you know, did you carry that forward from your previous band, or you know, is it like a recent development in your sort of your skills and abilities?
I think it's definitely been a long time coming. It's been a long road to get where we are now. I've been in bands for 10 plus years, starting with before I went away to uni and being at school and stuff like that. And I'm pretty sure there's some really early footage of one of the bands I was on way back in the day, and I literally just stay rooted to the spot, and everything that moves is just my upper body doing this. And I think, yeah, it just kind of comes over time. You just learn to just know what works, know what doesn't work. Yeah, I mean, and being with the guys on the stage as well, like you said, it just, when you enjoy it, then it's easier to kind of, you know, do what you need to do.
Well, I was going to pass over to Kirk next. I think he's got a couple of things to ask you as well.
Sure.
Yeah, hi JB. I just remember last year, Metal to the Masses, the quarters, and when they were announcing it, I had my arm around you, even though you're like 8 inches taller than me. I was like, you're going through to the semis. And you didn't get through, but I just remember your attitude was absolutely spot on. You're like, that's fine, we'll be back next year. And the way you've started this year, look at all the shows you've booked in. You're like a fucking greyhound racer, the band. Did you have like a pep talk at the end of 2022 and think, right, this is what we've got to do, this is what we want to do, this is where we need to get to?
Yeah, 100%. I think it was just one of those things where we kind of said to ourselves, like, well, you know, it'd be really nice to kind of get on and play some of the bigger stages of Bloodstock, but at the end of the day, it's just something that we've all really wanted to do. So if you want to do something like that, you just got to take the time to do the commitment and put the effort in. And I think getting the music to a stage where we kind of had all these new songs that we've been playing for a little while, getting them recorded, and then just kind of really putting a bit of a game plan down, saying, right, let's just gig as much as possible, get a lot of stuff in the diary. Music video shoot at the end of April as well. So it was just kind of identifying these things that maybe we hadn't necessarily done yet, and that we just really wanted to kind of get ticked off, just to give the start of this year some real good momentum. Yeah,
you said get things in the diary then. So how do you see Sentient breaking out of the southeast, or certainly the home counties metal scene? I know you've got obviously London on a doorstep here, haven't we? What plans do you have to expand beyond the A1 corridor and into the Midlands, or perhaps even the north of England?
I think it's just, for lack of a better word, probably just networking. I know when we released our single Phantom Limb the other day, Rick was on fire, just absolutely throwing it out to every other Facebook, Instagram group kind of thing. And off the back of that, we've had like quite a lot of follows and likes from people that we weren't necessarily talking to before. So I guess now that we've got a product to push, so we say, it's just trying to get that out to as many people as possible, finding as many promoters' emails, inboxes, and just firing out emails, and hopefully just word of mouth as well. Just, you know, hopefully people who maybe haven't come to see us before come to a gig and then say, you know, I've got friends who put gigs on here, there, or wherever, and just go for them there, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest, for a lot of the bands in the southeast, is one of the, you know, early on in your career, surely to play the Black Heart in Camden always seems to be one for the checklist. Have you actually played that venue?
We haven't yet, no. But I said earlier, I'm still trying to look to kind of branch out to these places. I mean, if you know someone, hook us up. We'd be more than happy to get in there.
Dave does, definitely, given his experience gigging in the past. So you touched upon when Ricky put this ad on, was it Find My Band?
Joinmyband.com, something like that. Yeah,
the Tinder for musicians. Yeah. So tell us then, you know, you said, oh, I seen this ad. What influences did he put on there? How did he describe the kind of music he wanted to write?
Well, I think it was very much from memory. For fans of like Bell Silent, Architects, Monuments, Tesseract, Meshuggah, Machine Head, Pantera. So a bit of everything really, but everything that was kind of like ticking my boxes at the time. So that's why I was like, yeah, sounds good. So let's get into it.
Yeah, I mean, Dave and Andy disagree with me on this. I said that Sentient are the only band we have in the southeast in this part that actually have a bit of a Meshuggah sound to them. We just don't see that in this part. And Dave, you're convinced that I know it's a dirty word, but you're convinced that Sentient don't gents. They're not a gent band.
No, I'm convinced you're not.
Well, no, I mean, first and foremost, we've always been heavy spaghetti.
Yeah,
so whatever that kind of means to everyone, means to anyone, take it how you will. But if we had to pigeonhole ourselves, it would definitely be we're heavy spaghetti.
Yeah,
I prefer that.
Well, nobody wants to be known as a gent band.
Hang on, you know how you feel about new metal, Kirk?
Yeah, is that
That's how I feel about genting. Sorry, I do. And it's the people that do it badly. I don't. I when I hear Sentient, I don't hear genting. I just hear just heavy weight, chuggy, heavy riffs, and I'm quite happy with that. Whereas genting is just preposterous wanking, to be honest.
I mean, the new single "Phantom Limb" came out 10 days ago. When did you actually record that?
That's a very good question. Parts of it probably even last year, maybe. Me and Rick got in and did the vocals, and then, like I said, did Trig's bass probably more recently, and then Tom's guitar a little bit earlier than that. So it's kind of been a long time in the running. Rick did have some technical issues with his laptop where he tried to switch a hard drive over or something with all his porn in it, and it died. Well, so he says. So yeah, that kind of pushed things back a little bit. Yeah, got there in the end, and then we've got a few. I think 3 or 4 other songs, 5 other songs that will be going on to that EP. Some we have released, but have just had a bit of a tune-up in terms of the mixing and the mastering kind of thing. But yeah, some new bits on there. A couple of songs that we don't play live as well, so that'll be something fresh for everyone to enjoy.
Yeah, is it me? When I saw the show, there seemed to be a lot more blast beats in the show that you played 2 weeks ago. I don't remember hearing them in some of the other songs, but Rick said some of those were older songs. Have I just been drunk at every gig?
Yes, you have.
In your music until that the 4th time I've seen you.
I mean, sometimes your guess is as good as mine. We've been at practices sometimes, and I'll suddenly just tune into the drums, and I'll be like, "Have you always played it that way?" And he'll be like, "Yeah." So maybe it was just what he was feeling on the night. He just he had an extra can of Monster or something, and just felt the need to go for it a bit hard. But yeah.
So let's talk about vocal technique then. So you've got a really monstrous roar, haven't you? And I think we once had a chat outside when everyone goes out for a cigarette. What is your technique? How do you get that really powerful, distorted roar?
Well, this will probably be where I get chastised a little bit. But I actually do inhale screams, which I know a lot of people say are really bad for you. But I think it's just a technique that I did really early on, and then unfortunately I just kind of kept doing it, so it's just kind of what I became akin to. It seems to work for me. I've never lost my voice after a show, touch woods, and yeah, it always seems to work on the night kind of thing. I want to try and, like, in the process of trying to go the other way, and then you never know, there may be some cleans coming up on the EP as well. So yeah, everything really.
Yeah, I mean that technique you describe, I don't know why people are too critical of it. 1, you preserve your voice. 2, it sounds ferocious. 3, Devin Townsend does it, so it clearly can't be anything wrong with the technique if Devin Townsend uses that for when he goes into like the more aggressive forms of, I suppose it is singing, isn't it? But like, what was the previous band you were in then? Because Andy said about learning your craft. The first gig you did, you felt like your feet were stuck to the floor and you were just swaying your shoulders around.
Yeah.
What kind of music was it you were playing in previous bands?
There's been a few over the years. So I guess the very first half serious one was a band called Mares of Diomedes, classic name, which was kind of more like metalcore-y stuff. But again, I was still doing the same technique, and I was doing the same thing, and then we had someone else who was doing like the clean vocals. And then following that, I went away to uni. I was in a band called Magnitudes. Again, similar style. So it's what I've known. A lot of those guys in the Magnitude band, they now play in a band called Gaia, who won.
Oh, are they in Brighton?
They won the Brighton Metal to the Masses a few years ago, and I think they played Blackheart recently on a little tour they did, and they are absolutely smashing it. So go check those guys out.
Yeah, I interviewed. I did a feeture on them, for Scream Blast Repeat. The guitar player. Did you meet him at? He went to the Institute for Music. Is that where you studied?
So I went to Canterbury, Christchurch, had to do a journalism degree, and it was just, I think I was I started in a band that I found on that website again, and then I think as I was playing a show with them, those guys came up to me and said, "Would you be interested in doing vocals for us?" And yeah, that was how I got to know those guys. Yeah,
that band. We should check out their music. Andy and Dave, Gaia, Brighton-based progressive metal band, like Tesseract with like really aggressive Born of Osiris type rhythms. Yeah, the main songwriter is he studied music, hasn't he?
I believe so. Yeah. I think they were a few years below myself. But when I met those guys, they were absolutely phenomenal players. Everything they did, it was Jamie, who's the guitar player, Nick, who's the bass player, and then Dave maybe as a drummer. I think it's been a long time. Then after that, I took a break from the vocals, came back to Hertfordshire. I was in a band called Surrender Your King, where I was a guitar player predominantly, and then that ended, and then found these guys and started Sentient, or what was Elements, I think, at the time.
And you've been at it for 5 years as well, and
about that, it's been a while.
Seems like this year, you really all want to put all your energies into it and just see how far you can take it. Obviously, if you were to win the Hitchin Hertfordshire Heat, then you've secured a place, haven't you, on the New Blood stage at Bloodstock, which would be an incredible achievement. So with that in mind, at this stage, I just want to ask a few questions then, just to lighten it up a bit. So tell us 3 interesting things about yourself that people who know you as the singer of Sentient will be surprised to learn.
Oh goodness. Not really too many interesting things. The worst part about it is normally when people ask me that from outside the music scene, I say, "Oh, I'm on Spotify," and that's the most interesting thing. Kind of thing. What's interesting? I worked at a trampoline park in Stevenage for a few years. I mean, that was pretty good.
Looks good on the scene.
Like my stepson very often. Is it called Bounce? Is that Bounce?
I think it's called Gravity now.
Gravity.
When I worked there, it was Airspace. So it was the one on the Stevenage Leisure Park. I worked there for a good number of years. And that was real good fun.
Yeah. JB, I've got a question regarding like your live set and everything. Is there like a go-to song that's always down on the set and you work around that either at the beginning, middle, or the end? Or if there isn't, how do you sort of formulate your sets, sort of perhaps now and going back a few years?
That's a good question, to be honest. I think it's always been trying to start quite heavy and then finish quite heavy as well. But we've always
in the middle.
And just heavy in the middle, but it's always kind of been similar kind of structure. So we'll come out with 2 songs, then have a break, then do another 2. But we've always had it with the 3rd and the 4th one kind of run into each other just to keep a little bit of momentum going, and then break after that one, and then finish with the last 2. So and I think especially how it's worked now, obviously we open with one of the first singles that we had from this EP, and then I'll obviously go straight into Phantom Limb, and then I think towards the end of the set is when we play Gaslighter, which is obviously what we have the video for. So
yeah, I think you do that as the penultimate track, don't you, Gaslighter? But you end with that.
No, there's one after that one as well, and then obviously you guys have seen us before, so you know that sometimes we like to throw a Pantera cover in, or even a Phil Collins Easy Lover track in there as well. So
yeah, Gaslighter is actually quite a complex song. Do you know how you get the crowd? You basically say, right, when I hand the mic, you just need to shout Gaslighter. But it's not a verse chorus song. So when I'm listening to it, it comes around to the chorus the first time. I'm like, oh, this is easy to get used to. And then another 2 minutes go by. I was like, what's going on? It's actually like more of a prog metal song, right? Isn't it? Just a really aggressive
Yeah, I mean, always. I think that kind of comes back to what we were saying earlier about getting better with the craft and stuff like that. I think when we first started playing it, never really thought about it as a kind of a sing-alongy one. And then I was like, oh, well, let's just give it a go. And then it had quite a good reaction from people. So I was like, oh, well, let's start doing this. But then, yeah, you need to take it with a pinch of salt, because I think I normally say that, you know, the lyrics are about 80% gaslight. They're not. They're probably only about 15. But it's
Exactly.
a good shouty bit anyway. So
You don't actually repeat that too often.
I'm terrible with maths, so my calculations may be a bit off on that one.
That's hilarious. What about the, you know, you did that, was it a year ago when you released Destroy, Rebuild?
Yes.
That, I really like that song. There's also, you're doing this quite strange, almost like death metal rap in there as well. Is that am I right describing it like that? It's really fast.
Yeah, I'm not really sure where that came from. That was honestly one of those kind of bolt of lightning moments. I think I was just listening to the riff over and over again, and I just had these words written down, and I was like, what if I just try it like this? And it just kind of came out of nowhere, and yeah, we seem to have stuck with it. So
yeah, you hear that in technical death metal. You know that Canadian band Archspire, their vocalist does it as well. But it just sounds. First time I heard it, I was like, what the fuck is this? But it really suits the way you've done it. But those lyrics,
something we had never really done before either, so I thought might as well give it a go.
Yeah, the lyrics are quite. It's about not letting adversity get you down, isn't it? Because you did a lyric video for that song, and that's quite. Even though it's a really brutal song, it's almost like the hardcore sentiment, isn't it? It's like, come on, you do need to get up, you do need to go to work. Stop thinking about the future, deal with it.
I think it was, definitely came off the back of maybe, you know, losing like the members that we had before and going through these lineup changes and being in that position where it's like, is this still something that we want to do? And then actually just thinking, no, of course it is. Like, let's fucking buckle down and kind of get to it a little bit. And I think, just to echo what you said there, it's very much like I don't know, that kind of hate breed element where it's like the riff is so heavy, but the lyrics are like, believe in yourself. Like that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Don't give in to the curse of the fatalist. I remember from the last Hate Breed album, I thought, this is fantastic. It's a heavy song and it's something that you can get behind. You know, let's be honest, a lot of metal music, especially death metal and black metal, you know, I'm not a Satanist, so I'm enjoying the music, but I'm thinking, can't really connect with this. And then when you hear Hate Breed and that song you did, Destroy, Rebuild, it's like, yeah, these are things that I want to be hearing. So yeah, I just think it's a really top song. Like, when did you first premiere that? What was your first gig when you played that live? Destroy.
Probably it might have been a Metal to the Masses, to be honest, or possibly one of the surrounding gigs. As soon as we did it, we knew it obviously had to kind of go in the set, and then even more recently, Rick and the guys have put together the intro that they played at the show on Sunday. Which is where we've kind of split it into two now. So obviously the intro is Destroy, and then the rest of it is Rebuild. So.
Top man, yeah. Dave.
Guys, we just got back to me, I guess, then. So we have just one final question, which is, you've already mentioned that you had some songs that you're still working on for the EP. So when is this coming out? Are we going to get the rest of the songs this year?
Yeah, most definitely. I'd say within probably the next... I mean, optimistically, I'd like to say within the next month or so. Everything is recorded, and pretty much everything is on the last mixes. It's just, I guess, sitting and listening through it start to finish, and if anyone's got any last-minute tweaks they want to throw in, and I know Rick will honestly tweak it until the cows come home like this. He'll just keep sitting at it, so there's got to be a cut-off at some point. But yeah, definitely within the next month or so, I'd say.
And will you be doing it as just dropping it as an EP, or will you be dropping them as some singles first, and then just dropping it when you get to the last track, dropping the EP at the end, or have you decided how you're going to do that?
So we've got Phantom's out at the moment, and then, to be honest, the other two from it are Destroy, Rebuild, and Gaslighter are on it as well. So obviously those are kind of already out in circulation. Like I said, We've already just done a bit of a tune-up on them. So at that stage, we'll probably just release the EP in full. But in terms of like future plans, we were going to do a full-length release with about 12, 13 tracks, but then just to kind of get some content out there, we've split it into two. So the first 6 are Sentient is Dead, and then later on this year we're going to release another 6 or 7, which is Long Live Sentient. So
excellent.
Sounds good.
Well, just want to say a big thank you to JB, obviously, for joining us from the Sentient camp. It's been great to chat to you today. I'm sure the same sentiment from Andy and Kirk as well.
Thanks
and
for
of
having me.
course, just big thank you, and everyone go check out Sentient. Thank you very much for watching, and take care. Bye-bye.